Yapping Fever.
Hello, welcome to Yapping Fever, the podcast about all things 20s, careers, dreams, chaos, growth, and the realness of adulting. I'm your host Tamara, and let's get into today's yap. Today I'm going to start us off by talking about my creative recommendation. This time I'm recommending live theatre. Since my last episode, I've been to 2 musicals in Melbourne, and they were both brilliant. I am, of course, a person who loves live theatre, so it might not be for you. However, I do think at the moment Melbourne has some great shows on that are more inclusive to everyone's taste rather than just like your theatre kids. With theatre also, I feel like even if you like it, sometimes you go months without seeing things and then you like miss these great shows. And then you kind of like go, I feel like once I go, I keep going frequently. So if you do like theatre and you haven't been recently, this is your sign to book your next show. If you don't know, there is this app called Tix, T-I-X, and it is a app that gives you cheaper tickets and it does lots of lottery draws for shows that are in Melbourne, everything from like big musicals to like your smaller theatre shows. You can enter them, you can win $25 tickets, you can also just find like cheaper tickets through them. It's really cool. You sometimes get like great seats. I've literally been in the lotto before, paid $25 and was 5 rows from the front of the stage. So absolutely recommend. I personally went to the Beauty and the Beast musical. I went with my mum because it's become a tradition for us to go to theatre shows together. But, you know, grab a friend, grab a partner, or go by yourself. Live theatre is perfect to see by yourself on solo dates because you're watching the show and you don't have to talk to anyone. I think this musical is definitely for like people who love the movie, or if you're a Disney fan, or if you love dance, because there were so many good dance outbreaks. To all my dancing friends, go see this show if you haven't. They did a full-on tap number, they did a jazz number, they did the can-can. The dances were brilliant. It was heavy on that movement, so I think that if you love like musical theatre, if you love dance, it's definitely a show for you. I also feel like Disney has a big budget and they use it really well because the costumes were brilliant, the sets were brilliant, the quick changes were so good. It really like played into this idea of magic and kind of fantasy with how quick they moved through transitions. I just think it was done really well. They even had one of their costumes, they dressed up as like dishes and they had like plates. The dancers were plates. If you know the movie, it's from the song Be Our Guest, and there's that famous line that's like, if you don't believe me, ask the dishes, they can sing and they can dance. And that was like their full-on outfit, and then they did the can-can. So I think it was brilliant. My favorite songs personally were Gaston and Be Our Guest. So book your tickets. It's on until April if you are interested. Secondly, I went to the Tina Turner musical. Tina Turner is the famous singer who unfortunately passed away last year, but at the age of 83, and it's about her life story and how she became a singer. I didn't really know anything about this woman besides I knew her song Nutbush because it's iconic in Australia for its dance, and the Proud Mary song, which is the one that's like rolling on a river. And it's one of those musicals that in particular I wasn't that excited to go see. Like my mum got tickets for us, which is very nice of her, but I was like, oh yeah, like I'll see it, but I wasn't begging to see it, and it was incredible. It was so incredible. If you like her music, go see it because every song they sing is music that she's written. They've just like put it into the story. You also learn so much about this woman. I didn't know her past. She actually had a really abusive life. She made a comeback like in her 40s. It was such an interesting story and I was hooked from the get-go. Also, the ensemble and the singers were incredible. The voices were brilliant. I actually had the understudy playing Tina and her voice was amazing. She was a powerhouse. I actually couldn't believe it. I think she's the best voice I've ever seen on Broadway. So if you just love like good vocals and good music, go see it. Also at the end of it, because she's playing like Tina Turner, they did like a mini Tina Turner concert. She sang like 3 of her big hits, the songs that like everyone knows. Everyone got up and danced. It was such a cool experience. I loved it. Like we were dancing and singing. It was incredible. It's on until the end of February, so get tickets for that one as well if you're interested. Okay, so getting into the main section of today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about advice. This will be advice that's either been given to me personally or I found that's really stuck with me. It's things that I find myself that I keep coming back to or reminding myself of it. So I thought I'd just pass it on because you might feel like you need it right now, or it's something that you feel like will help you in the future. For context, I feel like life in your 20s has so much going on and you personally change a lot in a span of a few years. This is because you graduate from your teenage years to adulthood, you graduate from high school to uni to full-time jobs. You and your friends are all on different paths and you're all doing different things, so it can feel quite overwhelming. Because of that, I feel like sometimes you need a little pick-me-up and a little piece of advice to make yourself feel better or to remind yourself that so many others before you have been through all these life changes. So I've collected advice from different aspects of life and I've put it into different categories to hopefully help you today. Now, of course, I can sit here and I can give you the best advice in the whole entire world, but sometimes it's about going out into the world, learning, making your own mistakes, growing, achieving things, failing others for you to work out what works for you and what doesn't. But that's a different story. Today, we're just going to focus on advice and hopefully you'll find something that you feel like you need or you learnt from today's episode. The first category is friendships and relationships. Now, this first one is something that I was told growing up that I constantly keep coming back to and reminding myself of it, even as an adult. It's something my mum taught me, and it's that you should be able to count your friends on your hand. Now, that might sound a little weird, but it means you should be able to say your friends out loud, and you should be able to count them on your fingers. It's a great way to say you don't need heaps of friends, you just need a few close ones. And if you count them all, you technically shouldn't have more than 10. You can, of course, have more than 10 friends, but it's the ones that you fully rely on that you count on your hands. So if you have more than 10, you shouldn't be relying on them for everything. You should just be relying on the people really close to you for every aspect of life. So the friends that you want to keep for a long time. I like this one personally because I only got 5 friends. I can count them all on my hand. And if you include my family, I've literally got 10 friends. And they're the people that I'm counting on who are there for me at my highest of highs when I'm enjoying life and also at my low points when I need support and I need for people to rely on. I personally know this because I've been friends with these people for years, so I've had both good and bad things happen in my life that they've been there for me. So they're the ones that I'm listing off and counting. I think it also means that if you want to be a close friend of me, you have to work really hard because I've got great people around me, which is nice. I also think it's a good reminder because it shows you don't need heaps of friends. I think it can be overwhelming when you're like trying to make new friends and you're trying to make them from every aspect of your life and you're like, I've got to make a friend there, I've got to make a friend there, and you're trying to get 10 new friends, which isn't very realistic. Instead, it's like, maybe I'll just try and make one new friend and we have like a close connection. It's also unrealistic to make 10 new friends, but I feel like social media sometimes can be deceiving. You see lots of people going to parties all the time or like having huge friendship groups and you forget it's realistic that people only have about 3 friends that they fully rely on. I've also definitely had times in my own life where I've lost friends or I haven't had many friends and I've sat there, like I've actually sat down and I've counted them, like the people that I do have on my fingers, and it's made me feel better about myself. I genuinely think this has helped me when I was growing up not feel like a loser when I was like, I've got this friend, I've got this friend, I've got 2, that's it. But hey, look, I can count them on my hand, so that's all I need. That's all I need. I don't need to be in the friendship group that has 15 people. I don't know how, it just does something to my brain, and I think it's a really nice way to put it. It also helps you like know who to invest your time into. You can't invest your time and energy into 30 people. It's just not realistic. But if you aim to invest it into the 3 people that you're counting on your hand, hopefully they'll invest time and energy back into you. And that's when you know you've got really good friends. The next one is that love is peaceful. I think this goes hand in hand with both friendships and relationships. I don't know about you, but when I hang out with my friends, I always feel a little bit happier and more content when I leave. I technically feel peaceful. I feel like I've only heard this statement with romantic relationships though, but I think it works perfectly in the context of friends. For example, you shouldn't have to worry about if you can't hang out with your friends that they're going to bitch about you. Or if you have to leave early, that they're not going to like roll their eyes or have a problem with it. You shouldn't have that fear. Instead, there should be a feeling of peace. It can be like, I'm annoyed that I'm not going, but it's not any anxiety around your friendship and if it's a make or break thing. If I'm not in a room with my girls, I know they're not talking negatively about me. If they're talking about me, it's probably something like, it sucks that she's not here. And I know they're not talking bad things about me because I wouldn't do that to them and they wouldn't do that to me. Please note, it's not the same as being naive. Being naive is a different thing. But it's about trusting your friends and having good people around you who you know are going to treat you nicely if you're there or if you're not there. Because I've definitely had friends in the past that didn't make me feel that way, didn't fill me with peace when I left. I absolutely thought they were cashing up without me and like talking about me. And I'd have to worry about it and I'd think about our interactions constantly. This saying also works for relationships. I think sometimes when we start looking for relationships, some things that are a bit toxic are masked as like thrill or adrenaline and are actually not good for you in the long run. For example, the idea of like if you're texting someone and you text them and then they take 3 days to reply. So you're waiting for the reply and you're sitting and then they text you and get really excited. Like, oh my God, they like me. And you text a little bit and then they ghost you again. And then it's like constant waiting. And you think it's exciting and fun when it's actually anxiety. It's actually anxiety, honey. Like it's not good for you. Instead, there should be more peace. You shouldn't have to be like constantly on edge about things with relationships. For me personally, when I fell in love with my boyfriend, I didn't want a boyfriend. He knows that. Like I wasn't looking for a guy and I didn't want to fall in love. And I think that's why it happened differently to any way I've experienced in the past. It was slow and it was exciting, but in new ways. And it was technically peaceful. There's a saying that you will know. It's that home is where your heart is and the person you fall in love with will feel like home. I think it's very true. I think my boyfriend showed me that that's true because I feel very safe. I feel very at peace and comfortable with my person. Again, do not confuse that for being bored. They're not the same thing. You should be able to have fun and do lots of cool things, but still feel peace in your relationship. There's just this feeling that everything feels right. I think the other way you can look at this analogy is that I can sit in a room with my friends or my partner and we don't have to be talking. We can be drinking tea in silence or having a coffee or reading a book. And there's that prolonged silence. And in that silence, it is comfortable. There is no feeling of awkwardness or underlying tension. I do think awkwardness comes out more in fake friendships and tension comes out more in bad relationships. Because if it's awkward all the time in silence with your friends, it's probably because like someone doesn't like you in the room or someone's been talking about you or you don't know what to say. And tension, of course, I feel like is pretty straightforward. Something's wrong in your relationship. So just like make sure that if this silence is you're feeling content and you feel comfortable. I think it's a big thing. Like you should have peace in your friendships. Make sure you choose people who are feeling like home and giving you peace. Think about it next time when you're with your friends. Also, to add on to that, when you leave situations with friends or partners, you should be excited to see them again. Peace is something you want to keep coming back to. So you should be like, oh, I'm excited to catch up instead of like any dread. The next category is career advice. The first one being, there's no right or wrong decision, there's just a decision. This is one that I was told personally, and I think it really helps in those tough decisions where you're like, it's a be-all or ends-all situation. I can't remember exactly what I was deciding, but I feel like it could have been if I continue university or if I drop out. And you feel so much pressure to choose the right decision, to choose the right path, because if you fuck it up and don't take the one that maybe you should have taken or doesn't go as well as you hoped, you'll compare that path to the other path, the one that could have been better. When in reality, both decisions probably have some good things about them and some bad things about them, and both will have sacrifices and benefits to them. So if you remove the right or wrong from the decision and just make it a decision, sometimes it's easier. That way you can like really follow what your heart wants, or you can pick something, run with it, and just try it. I also feel like this helped when I was debating my job. I didn't really like it anymore, and I kept going back and forth for probably about 6 months of, do I quit? Do I stay? Do I quit? Do I stay? And when I just sat down and was like, just choose, and I think I knew I wanted to choose to quit, it made it so much more easier. It makes it easier because it just gives you a clear vision to follow rather than the back and forth mentality that can also be really bad for like a mental health. And again, the pressure of choosing the right decision. I feel like this can also work when deciding things outside of your career. It can work like, do I move interstate? Do I stay where I am? Do I go internationally? Do I travel right now? Do I work right now? Do I try out a new sport, or do I pick up a different type of hobby? And it's just a decision. You can try something and you can change your mind. For me personally, my life isn't the right thing to do for like society standard. I don't have that 9 to 5. I don't have that full-time income. I just make decisions that work for me, and then I can change them later if they're not going how I thought. I think it definitely helps with pressure, because if you choose one job and you choose it because you're like, this is the right thing to do, and you actually hate it, it can be really hard to leave because you're like, this was the right thing. I weighed up all the options. This is the one I should be doing. Where if you just like, I'm going to choose this, try it. If it doesn't work, you can do the other thing. It can make the transition between moving jobs or changing mindsets a lot easier. The next one is being comfortable is the worst. You need to grow, you need to learn, and you need to extend yourself to its limits. If you're comfortable in something, it's probably time to change something up. Your work should be pushing you, should be exhilarating. Stuff should start off as tough, then you learn it, you get better at it and comfortable, and then something else should come along to push you outside of your comfort zone. I think this can be a really hard pill to swallow, and it's something that I don't nail all the time. Like everyone, I like being comfortable. I don't like doing new things. I'm not good at them. It can be hard. So you stick to the things you're good at. But you don't improve yourself if you're always doing the same things, if you're not pushing yourself to be brave. I said work before, but to be honest with you can just choose it for certain aspects of your life. For me personally, work isn't the place where I need to push myself and extend myself because it's not my career. I go to work to do my job, to get paid. That's it. But I need to push myself in my creative outlets. I need to push myself in acting, in modeling. And that's the places where I want to grow. I also think it's really important if you're a creative person who follows a creative lifestyle, because it's probably the same type of thing. You need to keep continuing yourself to do art, continue yourself to read literature, just growing. I'm sure it also works in like business, even sport. Like if you want to do a marathon, you can't start running 42 kilometers. You have to start at like 5, 10, 15 half marathons. Yeah, so it's a great one to keep going back to. There are things about my career that I hate, that terrify me, and I try to avoid at all costs, but I don't learn that way, and I don't improve myself that way. I believe that you have to put yourself in the middle of a pit and crawl your way out to get better at something. You just have to go all in, dive into the deep end. For example, last year I signed up to an acting class that I was really nervous for. It was a part of my craft that I haven't been able to tackle before and I haven't been able to do. And I was scared because I was like, what if I fail? What if I can't do it? And I just booked it, and then I had to go. Didn't want to think too much about it, or I would have overanalyzed and not do it. And I learned so much in that class. I had days where I was like, I'm not in the mood. I'm going to be so bad in class. And I walked out and I was like, that was the best acting class of my life. I learned so much, and I definitely became a better actor because of it. So now I've got a bit more comfortable with that type of craft. I'm still learning it, but I have to go back to other acting classes to push myself again, to work harder, to keep extending myself. Because that's how you grow, and that's how you get better and better at things. It is a bit of a tough mindset, but I do think it's really important. It also goes hand in hand with that saying, never be the smartest person in the room. You need to be in a room with people who are smarter than you, so you keep pushing yourself. and it makes you work harder. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're holding yourself back and you're not learning and you're not extending your abilities. This next section is life advice. This is advice that I use in everyday life. It also relates to more than one aspect of your life, and it's something that I frequently come back to. The first one that you would have heard before, but I'm a big advocate for it, is everything in moderation. Again, I grew up with this one from my mum, and I think it's a really important one. It's that you can do everything in moderation, and I think she was a good role model to let me see that. I also think it works really well for food and exercise. Unfortunately, in society, I do think we're forced to analyze that part of our lifestyle a lot. But I think if you take it in the everything in moderation, it's a better mindset to have. For example, absolutely go and do a workout class. But then, if you want a sweet treat for dessert, have one. Go out drinking with your friends and then go for a walk. Stay out late and party and then have an early night the next night and drink some green tea. It's about doing a little bit of everything and not getting upset with yourself if you break or change routine. It's about not feeling guilt if you do the opposite end. For example, like exercise and then eating unhealthily. Life's about balance, and I think it's a nice reminder because especially on social media at the moment, people have their niches. People are very set in stone with niches and type of videos they make and what you should and shouldn't be doing. There's the people who are like, I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, I run 15Ks, I go to the gym in the afternoon, I eat healthy, I don't have anything bad, and I go to bed at 8 p.m. Okay, go queen. Like, go queen, that's great for you. But if you do a little bit of that and then you do a little bit of other things like partying, eating some hot chips, that's fine. It's okay. I think sometimes, especially on social media again, you can get this idea that it's bad to do things that are technically known to be unhealthy for you, but life's about balance. Just do a little bit of everything. I also think it works for other aspects of life. For example, like for work, if you've worked really hard all day, you're not going to want to come home and read like a really motivational book that's about getting your life together. You want to probably watch TV, and that's absolutely fine. Again, maybe even like spending money, like you really want to buy something nice, you can buy it. You can buy something nice. You can buy that t-shirt, go for it. But then maybe like don't have a coffee every day of the week. It's just about like picking and choosing things and doing a little bit of everything, because if you cut everything you enjoy out about your life, it will be dull, it will be boring, and life won't be fun. And life's all about having fun and doing lots of different things that bring you joy and happiness. So do everything in moderation, people. The last one I've got for you today is to take your biggest risks in your 20s. I think this is the one that's really made me stay on my creative career paths. I've definitely had days where I've said this all before, but I feel behind in life, or I feel like I'm not earning as much as the people around me, or I'm chasing dreams that I might never achieve, or maybe I should just give up and get a full-time job. And I think the idea of take your biggest risks in your 20s is the reason I keep trying to do the things that I love. Your 20s are your selfish years. When you're in your 20s, you can be fully selfish. You don't have the responsibility to look after heaps of other people. You're an adult for the first time, so you finally get to make your own decisions about what you want to do with your life. And even though you can be surrounded by people who might need to rely on you, you're not fully responsible for them yet. You don't have kids. Well, personally, I don't have kids. So now's the time to make risks, because I'm young and you can earn your money back, but you can't earn your youth and your time back. So I think this saying is all about taking risks, doing the things you love and you really want to do. Also, surround yourself by people who are going to support you doing the things you love, and be there for them, of course. But when it comes down to it, make sure you're making decisions that are going to help you either be happier, achieve some things in your career. Don't be a sheep. Don't be a sheep and just follow everyone, because that's the right thing to do. And I truly believe that if you try things and you make mistakes and you're like, oh my God, I failed, and you're 24, it's you're 24. I think society's also a little bit nicer too, in the fact that like she's young, she's learning, you've got time. You've got time to like I said, earn your money back. You've got time to go to get that full-time job. Full-time jobs and like full-time income will always be there, but you chasing your dreams won't. You'll have times where you'll be like, I probably have to like support others. I probably have to like take a step back from that. But when you're young, do what you want to do, guys. I definitely think in your 20s is the time to put the things that you love the most at the forefront of your decision making. So if you need to make any big decisions, make sure you think about what your heart wants. That's all I've got for you guys today. That's a wrap on the episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned some advice, maybe heard something you haven't heard before, or just had a good reminder. Remember that like you should feel peace with your friends, try something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, or take a risk and do something that you love in your 20s. I'm already looking forward to our next Yap, which will be in a fortnight. Please remember that you can follow the podcast on Instagram at Yapping Fever, or my personal Instagram at Tamara.Barton. Please follow at Yapping Fever on YouTube and Spotify. If you haven't already, give it a like. You can rate the show on Spotify and maybe share it to a friend who you think might need a little pick-me-up of advice. I'd love for you to share it. I'd love to get the word out a little bit more about this podcast. Thank you so much, guys, and I'm really looking forward to our next episode very, very soon.